Hello everyone, this is your host Professor Reha here with the first episode of the Athena Support Conquest series. This will probably be 5 episodes unless something drastically changes in the meantime. But Athena is the next god in line because she is extremely popular right now. She's in a very strong place. Ever since they added some nice damage to taunt, she's become vastly more useful. She was already mid-tier before. She just was elevated to a top-tier support. Now, I'm going to assume that you've at least watched the previous video detailing her abilities and generally how I go about it. I will probably reference back to that. I will probably repeat some of the information in there because that's just how I roll. But right now, let me see. We have a jungling tier and a solo Loki. Alright, let's see how this goes. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of the jungle tier. I think he's a little too slow movement speed-wise, and I think Loki doesn't have the defense or the sustain to carry off the solo lane properly. But otherwise, it'll be fairly interesting. This is a fairly wild season. I don't really have a huge problem. This also brings me to a conversation that I actually want to have where a lot of people play Athena. Well, I won't say a lot of people because that's a mild exaggeration, but there is a decent number of players who prefer to play Athena in the jungle. Now, if you want to do this, that's fine, but be aware of the fact that this requires an intimate knowledge of both Athena and jungling, because Athena is slower than most standard junglers, except for her ult. So you have to be extremely choosy when and who you ult in order to be able to keep pace or pull ahead of the enemy jungler in terms of farming and ganking. So you have to be extremely careful with that. It is possible. It can be incredibly effective, but it is very high risk, and it's something you really have to be careful with. Now, the enemy team comp has a predominantly physical format, so this is actually fairly lucky for us. I can probably take advantage of this. The whole team can probably take advantage of this, but we'll have to see. We've lost these before, which happens, absolutely. Let's see. I'm trying to decide if they have enough healing. Probably they will. I think it'll... we'll go with Sentinel's Gift, actually. I don't want to take that risk right now. We're going to go for level... No, we're going to go for the Sovereignty right off the top. We're going to get ourselves a nice shell, and we're going to specifically get multi-potions for the mana. Athena uses a lot of mana. I'm going the wrong way. So, yes, back to the original subject of Athena jungling. It is possible, but you have to be really good at jungling and really good with Athena, which is a very specific combination of knowledge. It can work, yes. It can be very effective, but you also have to be somewhat lucky. It's extremely difficult for Athena to prevail against, say, a good Mercury, because the Mercury will be able to outpace her regardless. But Mercury outpaces most everyone regardless, so you just have to be able to basically out-gank. Now we're gonna just wind up killing... No one, actually. There we go. I was gonna say, doesn't she have a sweep? Alright, so we're in a pretty good position. We intentionally killed the side minions, again like with Khepri, where we are looking for a little bit of bonus experience to help out, get to level 2 ideally a little bit faster so we can either get some really nice early damage going here. They have a support Nemesis, so and a ADC Agni. Now I've played ADC Agni quite a decent bit. It can work really well. I don't necessarily think he's building... it depends. I'm not going to necessarily judge his first item yet on how effective that could or could not be. Oh, I was way behind on that one. They're going to be very aggressive about this. Nice. And she just sat there and ate that for absolutely no reason. They mismanaged that, but that's mostly because I'm going to actually throw this out there onto the Nemesis because she doesn't have the kind of opening crowd control. I had the taunt that I was able to use. Although I missed it, I at least had that option, and I believe... No, I don't know if I hit him. No, I could not have. But I had that option. I also had the protections to be able to tank a lot more of the minion damage than she did. She does not have the early protections, especially since she did not build Sentinel's Gift or any kind of physical protection. She went right for the HP. So she didn't have the protections to carry that off. Yes, she had the HP, but she did not have the defense to do so. And I I just happened to have that. Also, Agni, once he wiped out his abilities, he really had no options, which is the problem with using a mage in the ADC role. Their damage output is not consistent, especially if it's a burst mage. Obviously, there are some mages that can do that, which is fine, but it is definitely something you have to be aware of. Alright, that was a good play. Nope, you've made a mistake. You don't realize that Athena is, in fact, a counter to Nemesis, which is another problem that they had with this matchup here, which is not the Nemesis' fault. She couldn't have known. Now, keep in mind that I used the soldiers there. I was rather focused, so I wasn't able to actually talk about it while I was in the process of doing so. But I used the soldiers there for the extremely specific reason that I knew that the minions would be there. They would be following me, and that the soldiers would help clear those out while I threw my spear to finish Agni off. And I only finished Agni off because Ram did not have his ult, and I knew he would not be able to pick that kill up. There were too many minions in the way. I'm pretty sure he didn't have any astral arrows. If he did, then that's on me. I wasn't paying enough attention, but I don't think he did. So, at the end of the day, that was the move to make. Now, interestingly enough, while normally I would discourage you from getting kills with most Guardians, Athena's one of the rare Guardians that can actually make kills work in her favor, because she's actually capable of putting out some pretty substantial amounts of damage, unlike Khepri. So whereas Khepri can't really do anything with the extra theoretic damage output of being a higher level, Athena can. She can actually do something with this. Furthermore, Athena has a really huge ability to... Actually, we're gonna... Oh, hello. No, you've done goofed. And again, we're coming down to the fact that I just happen to have the protections I need to make this stuff work. That is just me having default protections. This is why it is sometimes extremely important to build protections right off the top, even if you don't think you'll need them. Actually, we're not going to use that. That's extremely silly. Do you want to... No? Okay. We're not? Okay. Now, keep in mind, I could theoretically... Nah, he's going to be too far under tower. I could theoretically have pushed for that, but that wasn't going to be worth it. I wouldn't have been able to catch up to him in time. It just would not have worked out. We're going to get some wards here. We're going to go ahead and buy one more multi-potion. I accidentally used my shell there. That was kind of silly. We're ulting just for the movement. Don't be afraid to use your ult for that reason. Alright. This is not exactly a good situation here. Did we get the damage camp? Yeah, she got the damage camp. Okay. We have the enemy mid here as well. We are not completed. We are going in. Let's go. Oh, here's Tear the save. Oh, nice. Okay, fair enough. No, you're gonna not do that. Okay, Morgana with the save, nice. Okay, good. From, nice shot, nice shot, nice shot. We can still get him. I have multi-potion, I can catch up. Nice job.
I help those who do their best.
I'm not gonna be able to catch up to him. Alright, that's not worth it for me. I'm gonna help out Ram here. That was an awesome fight. We came out of that really well. That was really strong. We have duo. Okay, Kali versus Loki is not a good matchup in Loki's favor, generally speaking. I'm just gonna split this with him really quick because I stinking need the mana. Let's see if we can swipe this here. I doubt Agni's gonna have the ability to interfere with this in any meaningful capacity. He might try, which would be a welcome attempt, but I don't think he is. Alright. My ult is back up, by the way. Notice that I didn't actually need it in that battle, and the fact that I used it there was able to put me in a very strong position to help Morgana out. It's possible, and I can't necessarily guarantee this, but it seems possible to me that the enemy team decided to go for the damage camp because they believed I had gone back and wasn't going to be able to get up there in time to participate, which is the really huge advantage of that ult. Especially since I used it in an area where they couldn't see Morgana having it being used on her, because I don't think that AMC was in lane. By the way, AMC in the mid lane is also very interesting. He doesn't have mobility, so it's very risky to do so. Oh, you're in trouble. Hold on, let me show you really quick. You're fine, you're fine. Oh, here's... I can't help you right now, I'm busy. Rom. Oh, hello.
On my way.
Well, there's too many calls for... stuff. Let's see what we can do here with this. Yeah? That's what I thought, punk. Get out of here. Now, we didn't kill anyone. I was kind of hoping to kill Nemesis, obviously, but the fact that I didn't is fine. I did save Rom, that which was my main goal there. He came out of that alive. He was able to push back up. We're fine now. So, that's all I really wanted to accomplish. Actually, I should throw down my wards before I do anything. And he's also right. I should help him with that while I'm here. Oh, hello. Alright. Fair enough. I'm going to go ahead and put down another ward here. I'm not going to use my second ward. I'm just going to throw this one down here, just that way he's prepared. That's not going to come back in time. No, I'm actually going to wait a hot second. I want to wait for my ult to come back. I have enough mana to be able to do something in mid, which is clearly in trouble. Maybe I can help Tyr do something here. Let's see if I can get... He doesn't have his ult. That's a shame. Nemesis rotated faster than I was expecting her to. Missed that. I was too late. I was just a second too late. Now I can help with this wave really quick, and then I'll go back. Now, obviously, the soldiers do substantial amounts of damage. They're great for wave clear. Why? No.
Be right back. Ultimate is ready.
But you level up the minions first. I'm sorry, not the minions. The circle of soldiers first, so that way you can do that damage, help wave clear if you need to. You want to get Shoes of Focus usually on her, although Shoes of the Magi is also fine, but that's a little more aggressive than I personally prefer. What should I get next? Probably Breastplate of... no, I should probably get Contagion next, actually. Yes, so... I'm not gonna make it that... Oh, shoot, I was too late on that. I was just a second too late. I should have been actually charging that up a little bit earlier. I should have been paying a bit more attention. That's on me. I should have paid slightly more attention. I probably could have gotten something else out of there, probably Nemesis. So I'm going to go save the Morgan. In the meantime, not attack the Morgan, help the Morgan. No, she doesn't need it, okay. They don't need help over there. What is Nemesis building? She's apparently, okay, she's focusing purely on defense, which is the smart thing to do. She does not have the defense to keep up with me. I don't need those. But I am going to want to put this down here. Rom will be able to clear that, so I'm not really concerned about that. I don't want to steal his farm. Don't need to be there either. I don't have anywhere to be right now. I guess I'll just take these because I don't have anything else to really do at this point in time. And we can just clear this out really quick. Since I still don't have a whole lot to do at this point in time, we have AMC there. I'm trying to decide where Nemesis is going to go. It's a really tough question because I have no idea. She seems to be bopping between the two lanes pretty consistently. Did he hear that? He must have. Unless he's got a word down. Hello. Yeah, they're everyone over here. No. Get out of here. Good. I don't think she survives that. Just her times. Go, go, go. That was a good play by my boy there, but not good enough. Shoot. You're gonna turn around at some point, aren't you? Nope, never mind. That was nice.
Stand your ground.
Excellent.
I help those who do their best.
Excellent. Hold on. Can I just not be killed by the tower first? Let's not do that. There we go. There we go. Alright. Get the taunt up next. Then we focus on the... I'm going to go over to the right and gank. Then we start talking about the ult. Here's AMC. That was a good play. You played that pretty smart. Okay, he played that pretty well. I just wanted to get him off of Rom's back a little bit, though. Rom needed the room to breathe. Okay. Oh, well played. Yeah, that was a good ult. That was a good ult. That's the only real problem I have with Athena, is the fact that it takes so long for her preemptive strike to get up there. It is something of a small problem. It's the only real problem she has, just how long it takes for that to charge up. At least I'll be able to get contagion, though. Actually, I'll be able to ult back in, too. Let me assess the situation here first. The Morrigan. No time to waste. Just take a moment to get rid of that. Good. Alright. Just go in for it. Go in for it. Ah, so close. My attack speed is... Oh, she's got Frostbound, that's why. I'm gonna die, but that's fine. I got way too aggressive there. That was so bad. Yeah, you all probably figured that went out as soon as I went under that tower. Well, under the tower the first time wasn't really a huge problem. It was when Kali showed up. I should have left when Kali was there. I could have gotten out at that point. I probably should have gotten out at that point, but I didn't. Athena gives you power fantasies, honestly. She's dead, yeah. Interesting she picked Frostbound. I mean, I understand why she is playing solo lane. I see she's going for Animosity, so it makes sense. It's interesting to see this build. I am very curious as to how this will do. Conceptually, I understand where she's coming from, but I'm curious to see if it will actually work in practice. Oh, hello.
Ganked middle lane.
Nope, get out of here. Loki, you need to get out. Oh, he pushed her right out of that. She's faster than I am. Not fast enough to outrun Tyr, though. Good, good. He waited for the shield, that was good. There it is. No, he did not. Well, either she has that up really fast because of cooldown reduction, or she didn't have. She was canceled out of it before it technically triggered. I'm not sure which one. Nice. All right. Where is? There he is. That's yeah. We're not gonna make that. He's gonna outrun us anyways. Oh, all right. Come on then. I am now dead. No, I'm not. He completely ignored me for some reason. Now, I picked the Rom rather specifically because when somebody has my ult aura on them, they have increased damage mitigation. Fair enough. Very nice. I didn't think they were going to pull that off. Alright, I have to go back in with Shell. Well, I don't have to necessarily go in, but bait out some nice ult there. Oh, who went in there? Who is that? That's Loki. Alright. Get out of here. I'm not letting you kill my Loki. Now we're going to increase the ult. Now I have to try very hard to not die. It is not free. Just AMC. We're almost dead, but alright. I'm gonna die for this for absolutely no reason, I'm betting. There we go. But it wasn't for no reason. There's minion wave there. Take it, please. Get, blink. No. Get Ankh. And now my next move is going to be what specifically? I want Breastplate of Valor next, honestly. I want that cooldown. Alright, fair enough. Just slap up a whole bunch of cooldown up there, then I'm going to get... Now, a lot of people would be tempted to build Voidstone, but with just me and Morgana there, it's not really going to be worth it. Right now, I have 30% cooldown. I can get 40% with Genji's Guard, and then we're going to be in a really great position to be able to slap a whole bunch of people with my ult, with my taunt, with all kinds of things. And good. And... no. Trying my darndest. Alright, let's see if we can avenge him then. That was a good ult. I'm gonna go ahead and anti-heal these people. That was a good jump. Alright. I got 2 level ups for that? What level is she? She was 17, that's why. There we go. That's what I'm talking about. Now I gotta get the heck out of here. I had to make sure he was safe, because if I exited that circle when he was still there, he was going to be in pretty serious danger. And I did not want that. Alright. I just want to at least take the smalls here. There we go. Would Loki have survived the tower shot? Probably yes, but he would have been in worse health. And I have more protections than he does, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, actually he's got no protections at all. Never mind. He still probably would have survived the shot, but he would have been in very low health. And it's just not something I necessarily want to risk, even though I knew most of the enemy team had just died, if not all of them. There could have been minions that would have been a problem. He might have tried to stay around. For example, he stayed around to fight the Gold Furies, so that would have been a really bad position for him to be in there. The enemy team didn't even try to come over, but they could have. It was conceptual. I want to warn them that enemies are incoming over there. And now we're going to want to go for our Genji's Guard, and I'm going to need to ult somebody. We're going to ult... I don't know who I ulted there. There was too many people clustered together. It was not Rom who I was hoping for, but that's fine. No. Let's shell everyone. Did I shell him in time? Well, she's dead. Yep, I'm on it. Excellent. I can do this all day, come on. Yeah, we are not going to be able to fight them under Phoenix. And I do not have the health anymore to sustain that. Yeah, I just want to get some assists here, guy. Give me my 57 HP 5 to kind of rack up there, huh? The soloing of the Pyromancer was very impressive. Yes. That's a good call. We don't have much time to do with those. We gotta do this fast. Fortunately, we are very far ahead. Okay, now I'm gonna die for that, but that's okay. We got the Fire Giant. It's fine. They got no credit for it. It's all okay. So now I have Genji's Guard. Our next move is going to be getting Sentinel's Embrace, because it's awesome. Sentinel's Boon, I know a lot of... I very rarely see this built, because quite frankly, by the time you can build this, you probably don't need it so much. It's actually very useful in Arena. I will sometimes build this, because getting assists in Arena is a piece of cake, and the restoration of 4% of your health and mana is impressive. So occasionally I'll build it in Arena, but in Conquest... minions aren't quite as consistent. There are also moments in Joust where it could theoretically be useful. Clash as well, if you're really careful about your timing. Clash mains actually could probably do better with that in Clash than I ever could, because I usually play Conquest, or, I play all the modes pretty extensively, but Conquest is definitely my favorite and the one I spend the most time with. We need to go save Morgana. She's gonna be in trouble if unless I'm, missing my guess. I didn't think I was gonna miss my guess there. Nope, denied. You don't get that kill. Don't even think about it, you don't do damage. You're also only level 14 for some reason. Come on. Okay, there he goes. She's not a threat. She has completely nerfed herself. She's too low of level. She's not building fantastically. She's in a terrible position. She does have Frostbound, which I'm proud of her for. She didn't need Gauntlet of Thieves in this situation. It's too slow for how low her default protections are. Just shoot her, guy. Thank you. Thank you very much. Alright, bring it on. I can tank this all day. Let's go. Let's go. Worth it. Hands down, easily worth it. Alright, that was a fantastic Conquest game, and there's a lot to talk about here, both in terms of builds and in team comps, so I'm very excited about this post-game conversation. There's a lot to converse about here. It's supremely exciting for me. I love weird team comps like this. It's fantastic. Now, alright, first off, I played pretty well. I was too aggressive a couple of times. That moment in the mid lane when Kali was slaughtering me, that was way too aggressive there. There was another time where I didn't leave fast enough. That was, I believe, in the jungle after we took the right... No, it was after the Gold Fury. There was another time, I can't remember the specifics of, where I did not go back as quickly as I should have, and I died for it. And, of course, I could have left the Titan there at the end, but it didn't matter at that point anyways, so it's whatever. So, obviously, they had 4 physical, which is something of a problem. This is how I would say 2/3 of games go, in which one team has 4 of any one damage type. This is roughly how 2/3 of them go. So obviously Sovereignty was going to pull a huge amount of weight here. That's why I built that. I wanted Sentinel's Gift just for the sustain. They had just enough self-heal built into their kits where maybe Tainted Steel would have been effective, but then if they didn't focus on self-healing, then I could have gotten away with just Contagion. As it turns out, AMC did build some anti-heal here. Nemesis did not really. Gilgamesh built some in Serrated Edge, but that's kind of 50-50 because half of his damage output comes from his autos and half of it comes from his abilities. You're free to disagree with me, but in practice, that's basically how he functions. I almost have him at Diamond. I've been working on him. Agni had Soul Gem, but he just finished that. He had Vampiric Shroud and Shoes of the Magi, so it wasn't a whole lot of self-heal until Soul Gem showed up. So I wasn't necessarily wrong. Should I have built Tainted Steel? Probably, but it worked out, considering their comp. Obviously, Breastplate of Valor for the cooldowns. Now, when you're Athena, please build cooldowns. I've said this before, I'll say it more. Cooldowns. Just as important with her as with Khepri. The catch, though, with Athena is she's less risky than Khepri is, so cooldown reduction is a bit more rewarding with her than it would be with Khepri. Instead of abducting people like Khepri and leaving himself open, Taunt performs a similar function. I mean, they're forced to auto-attack, they're moving towards you so you can sort of drag them away. The catch is that Athena can do this from a safer distance, and she also can get block stacks by hitting enemy gods with her dash, and block stacks can really help with a nice taunt afterwards. That first shot means nothing, so that really helps. The problem, really, in comparison to Athena is obviously she doesn't have quite as much team support, but Death is the best crowd control anyways, and she makes up for that with damage and her ability to just be wherever she needs to be. But in order for her to effectively function as an equally, if not more effective support, she does need those cooldowns, taunt as many people as possible, get those dashes in there for the slows and the block stacks, absolutely slap people around. Now, there's going to be a small amount of people who will ask the very good question, it's an excellent question, what about Gem of Isolation, or Gem of ISO for short? Would that be good on Athena? Well, the answer to that question, in short, is yes and no. It does affect all of her abilities, and it can be very incredibly effective, but keep in mind that when you taunt somebody, they are going to be moving towards you much slower, so it is much harder for you to drag them into a tower or some kind of trap set up by you and your allies or something like that. So I don't usually build Gem of Isolation. There are situations in which you would potentially want Gem of Isolation. Jungling Athena can really put that to good use because you don't necessarily want to be taking that damage, so slowing them down to keep them away from you isn't a bad thing. But for support role, I would say probably stay away from Gem of Isolation. If you want to use Gem of Isolation, you should be looking to play her much more aggressively, and you should be playing with less protections than you normally would if you were a support. Thus, the jungle recommendation there. Also helps you to lock down your targets a little bit better when you're ganking somebody, as jungling Athena as well. And finally, we have Genji's Guard. Again, we have cooldowns. We have the awesome passive that helps out with that a lot. We needed at least a little bit of magic protections for Agni. I was just very fortunate that Agni was not building any form of penetration at all. If he'd been building penetration, I would have been in more trouble. But, you know, the fact that he wasn't, I could justify the Genji's Guard. I probably would have sold the Genji's Guard eventually for, I'm not necessarily sure what I would have picked up here. Probably Witchblade, actually, looking at it. AMC would have been put down with that. It would have been a much easier deal with Nemesis, Gilgamesh, Kali. Actually, everyone but their ADC, ironically, would have suffered from me purchasing Witchblade. So that probably would have been what I would have picked up there. It's a really great item. That would have been fantastic there. Morgana, yes, she's a little strong right now, that is true, but her pickup of Polynomicon is very interesting. It's actually a pretty good pickup, especially when combined with Conduit Gem. Now, the thing with Polynomicon, or Poly for short, is if you're building Poly, you'd better have an ability that keeps an enemy locked into place. Now, Morgana has the fear effect from her first ability, the Red Rune, and she also has an incredibly potent slow on the green rune in the late game. So she has ample opportunity to take advantage of Polynomicon. So it works very well on her, but there are some mages where I would really recommend you not poly. But Morgana can definitely put it to extremely good use. It offers you a little bit of magical lifesteal, some decent mana, which means you don't need necessarily quite as much MP5. You have some self-heal there. You can get your mana back with mana potions. It's a pretty good early pickup, and I think this is under-purchased in the early game, in all honesty. Yes, the passive isn't really a huge deal in the early game, in all honesty, because your magic power isn't that high. But in the early game, it's more about the mana and the magical lifesteal that it provides you, that offers you that are just really fantastic in the early game overall. Choose the Mage, of course, great pickup. Soul Gem, again, this is a great pickup, especially for those mages that have 100% damaging abilities, which Morgana has. All of her abilities do damage, so Soul Gem is much easier to proc. Fantastic pickup here. Charon's Coin, purely for the penetration. I would have preferred to have seen this a little bit earlier setup. I would have preferred to see this in place of Soul Gem. This is more of a personal opinion of mine, though, because this does need to stack. So I think maybe it was a little bit of a late purchase here in that regard. Spear of Desolation, another fantastic pickup. That was for the cooldown, which she did kind of not have so much of. But her build overall was very good. All these items offer Morgana a lot. Are there items that she could have built that would have been just as effective? Sure. She could have built Kronos' Pendant instead of Spear of Desolation, or she could have been building, or planning on building Kronos' Pendant later on. She could have built Divine Ruin instead of Spear of Desolation. She could have built Doom Orb instead of Charon's Coin, and then gone into Obshard afterwards. There's all kinds of things. The real strength of Morgana is that there are a whole lot of items she can really effectively use that a decent number of mages can also use very effectively, but it really depends on your playstyle as well, and she's a really nice, aggressive mage. It's really nice to see. The Rom, of course, fantastic build. Now, the purchasing of Transcendence is a really cool thing, and very bold, considering that right now a lot of people really are liking building Devour Scarlets. But what a lot of people forget, I think, personally, is how significantly impactful it really is for you to just build raw or almost raw power on a hunter, because 100% of that power is going into your auto attacks. And newsflash, a grand whopping hairy total of 3% of that mana is going into his power, and that comes out to a grand whopping hairy total of 61 power. He was getting 96 power out of Transcendence. That's pretty big, especially when you consider just all the rest that was going on. Ninja Tabi, then you have Aussie for extra life, for all the lifesteal he could possibly want. Get that attack speed up, get some flat penetration online. And again, considering that Nemesis was their support, and their solo lane was not building protections, this was a fantastic pickup. This was amazingly well thought out, because at that point, Nemesis only had Gauntlet of Thebes, which I'm not 100% sure was evolved at that point. She only had Reinforced Greaves. This was, and nobody else had anything, protection-wise. Punch right through. 15 pen, all you really need to punch through in that mid-game. Slap, slap, slap. Chin size. Now, this was a bit of an interesting build, but considering the enemy team, you had a Nemesis building health, you had a Kali focusing on health. This makes a lot of sense. She probably expected Gilgamesh to build health, and he did not, really, which is a very interesting choice on his part. I'm going to talk about him later, but Chin size under the circumstances makes a lot of sense. Was it as effective as Ron was hoping? Probably not, but still an excellent pickup here. Against this team comp, it was fantastic. Executioner, obviously, at this particular point, why wouldn't you? Just absolutely fantastic build, all around. Excellent building. Helped, of course, by the enemy team's strange comp. The Loki did better than I was expecting him to. The Corrupted Bluestone Pendant is a great purchase here, because he does want that interplay between ability and auto attacks with his backstab, so that's fantastic. Transcendence, of course, is amazing on Loki. Warrior Tabi, great. Soul Eater, thank you for building this. This is fantastic on Loki. You're healing off of your abilities, you're healing off of your backstabs, which do more damage. It's a fantastic time. You're getting some penetration, you're getting some cooldown. It offers Loki so much of the things that he wants. It's just an always amazing pickup on Loki, and it's underpurchased, I think, overall. Hydra's Lament, this is fairly interesting, but I understand and appreciate this. See, this also affects the backstab, so that is a huge amount of damage you can deal, especially after you ult. You ult, you stun, they're stunned, you stab them once, Hydra's Lament triggers, holy cow. It's just absolutely decimating fools. And then I'm going to anticipate this was probably going to be Heartseeker, if I had to take a guess, which, again, would have been an absolutely amazing pickup. Get some percentage health damage in there, get some 10% penetration, get more penetration online. Absolutely amazing. Was going to be so fantastic. Probably would have dropped Warrior Tabi for maybe some more physical penetration. I don't know if it would have been flat. Brawler's Beat Stick. Not Brawler's Beat Stick. What is that called? I'll have to check that later. But there's an item that I'm thinking of. Keep a mental note of that. The tier jungle worked out better than I expected as well, but I would like to point out why. The tier did something very smart here. Absolutely stinking genius. Boomba's Dagger, that's fine. Whether you prefer Boomba's Dagger or the Eye of the Jungle, that is a personal preference. For me, it depends on who I'm playing. This is fine. Talaria Boots. This was an absolute genius move. See, Community is a joke. Awesome name, by the way. Recognize that tier is not fast enough to keep up with most of the competition. Built Talaria Boots. This is absolutely the reason why tier was always where he needed to be when we needed him. This is how you build out of role. This is 100% how you do it. I just want to shout out this tier for having the awareness to do that. The Jotun's Wrath for the cooldown reduction, nice little bit of physical penetration there, 50 physical power, a little bit of mana to help out, absolutely amazing. Winged Blade, I understand why this was built to some extent. I just question its placement here. Now, this is built because of the movement speed, the counter to the slows. Now, in case you're wondering, you have the AMC slow, you have Nemesis slow, you have Gilgamesh's slow. I understand why this was built. And I understand why this was built at this point. But was this necessarily the ideal scenario for this? Maybe. Well, I won't say that it's not the ideal scenario for this. I somewhat am curious about its placement. I think Witchblade should have been purchased first. Personally, I would have built Witchblade, then Winged Blade. But again, that's a personal preference. I wasn't there I wasn't the one wading through the slows. I don't know what he was having to deal with at the time. Maybe he was really being impacted by these slows more than I am seeing and needed that winged blade earlier. But personally, I would have built the witchblade first. The witchblade obviously goes without saying is a fantastic pickup against this comp. We already discussed how I was going to pick that up later. This was going to be fantastic, or how I probably would have. The Shifter's Shield, interesting choice. I think overall pretty good. They were a pretty aggressive comp. When you're playing a support Nemesis, you're playing because you want to deal some damage while you're supporting, basically. Either that or you're a jungle main and you don't know how to do any other role other than supporting with weird gods. And even then, I wouldn't necessarily pick Nemesis for that because it doesn't have hard enough crowd control, but we'll get to that in a second. But Shifter's Shield was a pretty good build. I'm wondering if he would have built some form of penetration a little bit later on and swap out the Teleria boots. If he was going to swap out the Teleria boots at all, maybe he wasn't planning on to. I don't know. He could have. At the point that he was done with Shifter's Shield, he could have sold Teleria boots, purchased the Elixir of Speed, and maintained good enough movement speed to be where he needed to be because of the movement speed boost from Witchblade and Wingblade. So I don't think that was really going to be a concern for our pal Tyr here. But the Shifter's Shield works, but I personally would have preferred seeing, I don't know, personally, some penetration. He doesn't have a lot at this point in time, and even though the enemy team comp doesn't have a ton of physical, well, maybe this was built because they had not built enough protections to merit this. I mean, Nemesis only had Gauntlet of Thebes, and for physical protection, that's it. So I'm wondering if Shifter's Shield was picked up here simply because they didn't have any protections, basically. That there was no need for more serious penetration, which is absolutely true. There wasn't. Let's talk about the enemy team now, which is the interesting part of this game. AMC was their mid. Now, I don't have necessarily an inherent problem with bringing ADCs into the mid lane. Especially certain ADCs do really well there. Neith, Chiron, Scotty do really well in the mid lane. Amazon Cobb does not. For just one specific reason. He has no escape. Now, there is a pretty severe problem with bringing a god into the mid lane that does not have a consistently effective escape. This is why Hobwa has fallen off despite his incredible damage output. He doesn't have a reliable escape. He's got a carpet that makes him move a little quicker and makes him immune to slows. It's not consistent. This is the major weakness of Morgana, actually, in fact, is the fact that she does not have a consistent escape. She moves faster in her ult, and that is basically all she's got other than crowd control methods. Now, granted, if a Morgana plays really well, she can still get away even without an escape, which is fine. But that requires a certain amount of practice with Morgana, so this is why I generally regard Morgana as a medium difficulty god. It's not so much her damage output that you need to figure out, it's figuring out how to escape as Morgana that's the tough part. But AMC doesn't have that. All he's got to prevent people from tailing him is the slow effect of the honey and a cripple on his ult. And if you're running away, you're not going to pick up the Stinger, so you're going to be really hesitant to use that defensively. This is the crux of the problem with AMC, especially since we had a jungling Tyr who really knew what they were doing. Absolutely slapped this AMC down. I'm 100% confident. Of course, Morgana has absolutely no issues landing her abilities on AMC that cause crowd control. The slow from the green rune, the fear from the red rune. He has no escape from these. He didn't build badly. He built fine, except I do kind of... I'm pretty sure this was a desperation pickup for the health there, personally. That's my opinion. He was doing really bad. Needed some health or some kind of defensive item, built Blackthorn because it provides a combination of power and health. That's what it looks like to me. Another thing I'd like to point out is the small issue of Bluestone Pendant on AMC. I see a lot of AMCs build this. And I'm going to be really honest, I don't build this on AMC at all. I'm aware of the fact that you can absolutely get some attack speed bonuses out of the Corrupted Bluestone. Yes, this is fantastic. Yay. But personally, AMC doesn't really need that much attack speed in the first place because his hives increases attack speed naturally, so there's really no problem with that. Just flat out, there's just really no problems here with that. AMC would have been better off with some serious form of sustain or something, because AMC was going to get ganked a lot, and that should have been anticipated in What Amazon Cobb needs is a way to stay as topped off as possible so when the gank comes, AMC is still relatively fresh enough to maybe escape alive. Bluestone does not do this. And, I mean, this is rapidly going off the rails here. This is rapidly devolving into desperation building. You can see it. You can see it. Even a mid lane AMC does not want this much health. Honestly. Solo lane AMC would want this much health, and there are ways of making AMC work pretty well in the solo lane. I will address that when I get to him way down the road. That's a different conversation. But for mid lane, just please don't. This is why. It's just that, see, with the side lanes, with dual lane and solo lane, they're not ganked as often as mid lane. Yes, they're ganked, decently often, especially solo lane whenever I'm in. It seems to be a favorite spot of the enemy jungler, but that could just be me having a persecution complex. Anyways, mid lane is the most frequently ganked lane because that's where the junglers always go. They have to pass by that lane all the time just to get to the other side of the field to get more farm or to get some gank or whatever. So it is just by default the most ganked lane. And you're bringing in a god that has no escape. And I'm sure you understand the problem here. Again, this is exacerbated by the fact that we had a jungling tier. But it's still a problem. Fenrir would have had a field day with AMC. Akali of our own would have had a field day with AMC. Basically, most junglers with even the most minor of crowd control would have just slapped AMC into next week, regardless. That's the problem I have with this. Now, the Nemesis is another interesting case. This was a support Nemesis. Nemesis doesn't have the protections to support this role until she's level 5, so her early game as a support is incredibly weak. Furthermore, she decided to exacerbate this fact with Benevolence. Now, I understand that at the end of the game, Nemesis was probably going to build Animosity and attempt to do some decent damage. This is generally indicated by the rather heavy focus she has on health. Actually, Shogun's Kusari is the only item she built that did not have any kind of health increase. And she's clearly prioritizing health over protections, otherwise she wouldn't have built Frostbound as her 4th item. Against our team comp, which was not necessarily 100% auto-attack focused. Different conversation. But, I mean, the fact that Nemesis does poorly against Athena is just pure happenstance. Can't blame Outcast Artisan for that, they couldn't have known. But Nemesis has exactly 2 slows, and that is all her crowd control. 2 slows. Protection reduction, if you want more support role stuff. Tankiness out of her reflection shield if you want to assume that you're not going to get hit by some form of crowd control to blast that out of you. She doesn't have enough hard crowd control to make it work. Supports need 2 things to work. They need high defense, and they need a lot of crowd control. Nemesis does not have a lot of crowd control. 2 slows is 2 soft crowd controls. And by soft crowd controls, in case I'm actually going to go off on a mild 1-minute tangent here, if you don't know the difference between a soft and a hard crowd control, a soft crowd control is a crowd control that does not prevent you from taking any one action. A slow does not prevent you from moving, it simply slows your movement. It does not prevent you from using any abilities, and it does not prevent you from auto-attacking. Contrast this to, say, a root. A root is considered hard crowd control because it prevents you from taking the action of moving. Cripples prevent you from taking the action of auto-attacking. Silence prevents you from taking the action of using an ability. Now, another form of soft crowd control is what is known as movement crowd control. Pulls, pushes, pop-ups. These are generally considered soft crowd control because, again, they don't necessarily inherently prevent you from doing something. Consider, say, let's take Yamoja's water rings as an example. That pushes you back. Now, as long as you're in the air, obviously, you're, not going to be using any abilities, but as soon as you're on the ground, you're perfectly fine. Now, there are people who, technically, I'm going to be fairly divisive on this one. but technically pop-ups are actually hard crowd control, but because it's a movement crowd control, it's frequently lumped into soft crowd control for some reason by people who either aren't paying attention or people who just cluster them like that, which is fine. Personally, I personally see pop-ups as hard crowd control, but not everyone does, which is why I kind of talked about it there. But yeah, that is essentially what hard crowd control and soft crowd control are. But and back to the original point, Nemesis does not have any hard crowd control. None. She has none. She has 2 slows, 3 with a frostbound hammer, and that is all. It is all she's got. It is not enough to help keep your team alive. Gilgamesh jungling is something I'm normally fine with, and his initial build was fine. You've got Boombas, you've got Stone Cutting, which is great. Ninja Tabi, Serrated Edge. Fine, this is good. This is still effective. Chin size, okay. That makes less sense. The problem with chin size against our comp is that there were only 2 enemies that were really going to be heavily affected by it, Tyr and myself. Now, that first off, I mean, yes, it's going to affect the other 3 with damage as well, but they don't have the kind of maximum health that Tyr and I had, so it wasn't going to be as meaningful there. Furthermore, you can see Gilgamesh rather strongly wandering away from health, which can boost his auto-attack damage under his first ability, so he was really throwing away a lot of opportunity there, and this was going to be the health that he was going to get at some point. This was probably going to be Frostbound. Too little too late, though. Now, the Kali. The Kali's build I'm actually okay with. Animosity, fine, that's good on her. Ninja Tabi, completely understandable. Toxic Blade, yep, I can see that. That definitely makes sense. I mean, at the point that she was building this, Morgana had Polynomicon. Loki was Loki was not working on that at that point. Well, Loki was actually ahead by a lot, so Loki may have been working on Soul Eater at that point. Ra might have been working on Aussie at that point. Morgana might have been working on Soul Gem. We were decently ahead in all areas. So this might have been built because she could predict, based on how far ahead we were and our builds, what we were going to build next. The Frostbound Hammer works with the Animosity, makes total sense. Talisman of Energy, great pickup. Problem here is that we didn't have enough magic damage to make that the better choice here. This should have been, if you wanted to go with a hybrid build, your first move should have been Void Shield. You know, you get that 15% physical protection reduction. Toxic Blade slaps on 15 penetration right underneath that. Works out great. You know, chip away at my protections, Tyr's protections, at a significant level, and then a little bit more with Toxic Blade. You hit the others with Toxic Blade mostly. That would have been great. And then build Talisman of Energy. This was... I don't know what this is going to be. Oof. Ooh, yawn. This could have been the Golden Blade, or it could have been the Hasten Katana, I don't know. The Hasten Katana makes less sense considering she had Frostbound, so I'm leaning more towards the presence of the Golden Blade rather than the Hasten Katana. Now, the Agni made 2 serious mistakes. First off, Agni can work in this role. First off. So let's just get that out of the way. He can potentially work here. The Vampiric Shroud wasn't necessarily a bad idea. Is it the ideal solution? No. The Vampiric Shroud is okay. But why would you build Kronos' Pendant right off the top? Look, I understand it has good magic power. I understand it's got MP5. And I understand that Agni really wants cooldown reduction. You are ADC. While that doesn't necessarily preclude that you need to focus on auto attacks, that's fine. You're a mage, you're trying to use abilities. Kronos' Pendant is a little bit more expensive than maybe one would want to build second item for not enough benefit, because the problem with building Kronos' Pendant so early is that now he's fallen behind monetarily, and that extra cooldown means nothing if you don't have the penetration or damage output to make that work, and considering that Agni built it so early, he didn't have either of these. That is my issue with building Kronos' Pendant so early. Can it work? Yes. It can work in the mid lane, where the enemy jungler is ganking you more frequently, and you need your abilities to be on cooldown as often as, or off cooldown as often as possible. That's where it makes sense. Or possibly a jungling mage might also really want Kronos' Pendant for a similar reason. they're always, bobbing around, trying to use their abilities to clear camps and traverse the map faster. So Chronos Suspended is very important to jungling mages as well. But for ADC mages, absolutely not. Agni can carry a perfectly good auto attack focused build if you want him to, if you know what you're doing. The Choose the Magi makes sense. The Soldier makes sense. This is probably going to be Spirit of the Magus, thinking about it. This is most likely going to be Spirit of the Magus, if I had to take a guess. Then he was going to finish with Typhon's Fang for some extra penetration there, and that was going to be what he was going to finish up with. But yes, this is an excellent match for us. The enemy team comp was very strange, and they didn't build particularly correctly, but it was overall an excellent game. Thank you all very much for joining me. If you liked this, please like and subscribe. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, ideas, suggestions, what have you, please leave them down in the comments below. I do read them. And as always, have a great 24 hours.